Discuss these developments further, I'm now joined by Basil Abia, a policy analyst and co-founder Veriv Africa, a Pan-African data insights company. He's joining us via Zoom from Abuja in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Basil. So what impact will this AES levy have on trade between ECOWAS countries and those in the new alliance of Sahel states grouping? And what does it mean for exports from ECOWAS countries?
Thank you very much. The immediate impacts will be felt summarily, and we have to look at the data first and foremost to understand what this means. As you know, intra-regional trade within ECOWAS member states is about 12% of the entire trade volumes of ECOWAS member states. So if you're doing a valuation of about 30 to 35 billion US dollars, which are the estimates from the African Development Bank, you have to understand what this means when you have additional levies of 0.5% or more. Now, you also have to put into context that 60% of the intra-regional trade is actually carried out by small retail traders. So your usual provision store owners on the border towns in Libya between Nigeria and Niger, or the border towns, for instance, between the Nigerian border and that of Benin. And that's the same for the borders between Mali and Burkina Faso and Ghana, or Mali and other countries in the region. So if 60% of your intra-regional trade is actually borne by these small retail traders, an initial bump in these levies basically means that there will be an increase in hidden taxes, what we would like to call as hidden taxes, and the consumers are going to feel it. So a vast majority of consumers from across board are going to feel the immediate impact in this increase. We also have an erosion of the gains made by the common external tariff regime that ECOWAS has been holding since its 2000 protocol that was held in 2000. And up till now, it has definitely deepened inter-regional trade with ECOWAS. We still have issues, obviously, in that regard, but this erodes those progress. And additionally, there's a recessionary threat. The recessionary threat, you have to understand, of course, mind you, that countries like Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger are under the common currency network of the CFA. And so that's a major reason why these countries have not really been enduring inflationary trends that countries like Ghana and Nigeria have endured in the last 2 to 3 years. So that monetary stability is what the CFA, West African CFA currency complex provides these countries. But when you include these levies, there's a recessionary threat, and that can bump inflationary prices up. And if that bump happens, then with the projections of Burkina Faso and Mali having to see GDP growth rates at just 2% for 2025, it'd probably be even lower when the outcomes of these levies from the AES takes into place. So it's going to be really distortionary to price outcomes.
So let's look at that distortion a little bit further. Do you think, though, ECOWAS will respond to the AES move in similar measure, considering the conciliatory tone, including continued free movement for AES nationals and goods? It's adopted in January when the AES states left.
I don't think so. And again, immediate history or recent history is my guide. As you know, for instance, Nigeria countered Niger's decision, obviously, to follow for the further double downing of the military regime. So when the military regime led by Chiani took over, Nigeria's first policy pronouncement was basically to counter that and put more pressure on the Nigerian junta. And what they did was to stop electricity supply from the Kainji Dam. As you know, we have this mutual agreement that for us to dam the lower Niger, which is in present-day Niger State in Nigeria, we would have to sell at very low rates, sell electricity to Niger. We also sell electricity to neighboring Benin Republic, by the way, and what we currently sell is about 360 megawatts. So Niger takes roughly 70% of that number, so over 250 megawatts actually of electricity is sold from Nigeria to Niger. And one of the punitive measures that we took was to end that. And when we ended it, we know how that was read in Miami. They were furious, and they countered, and it actually soiled our our own outcomes in terms of relations with Niger. So obviously now that punitive measure has been ended.
Right.
We now sell to them at the normal rates. But what that taught us in Abuja was that was not the outcome. And so moving forward, ECOWAS has actually been in a very conciliatory, I would say, output when it comes to legitimate ways of diplomacy or diplomatic measures with that of the Sahelian states. And as you have noted as well, John Dramani Mahama is very friendly with the leadership of Burkina Faso and Mali as well as Niger. So we are hoping that Accra will actually lead these diplomatic outcomes for us, but we're not going to see punitive measures from the ECOWAS. It's not possible.
So let's look at that issue of relations that you've mentioned there. What do you foresee then in the future relations between the two blocs, which appear to have some entrenched differences for now?
There's potential for re-engagement. I think that's very important. And I'm using history as my guide here. History shows that economic hardship normally puts countries who go against the protocol, the 2000 protocol, back into shape. And we saw that when Benin Republic were somewhat aggressive towards Nigeria in the mid-2000s when President Olusegun Obasanjo was president. And all that was needed was a little bit of economic hardship to precipitate the return for integration. And that's exactly what happened. Benin Republic got back into fold. So using that as my own framework, it's going to be the same. Once that recessionary trend starts to get in, there's already hardship, by the way, in the Sahelian states. This is not to say that the non-Sahelian states or the non-members of the AES are not following hardship, where we in ECOWAS are suffering from transnational terrorism. It's really, really hitting us hard. As you have noted, of course, very important that the viewers understand. Last week, Thursday, this Al-Qaeda affiliated group called the Jamaat al-Nusrat al-Islam wa Muslimin, JNIM, attacked 2 military positions in northern Benin Republic, killing 70 soldiers. JNIM also attacked several military positions in Difa region in Niger Republic. And then affiliated members to that JNIM in Nigeria, for instance, a new transnational terror group with ties to northern Benin Republic and southern Niger called the Mahmouda Group, are now in active terror activities. Basically, they're creating terror activities in Kwara State and Niger State in Nigeria. It's the same as well as in other parts of Nigeria that are bordering that of Niger. So ECOWAS is actually facing a serious transnational terror issue, and all of that compiled with the economic hardships that will come from the outcomes of the levies. There's a potential for re-engagement. Outside of that, I also think that the wisdom of the ECOWAS extraordinary meeting would be to push Dramani Mahama to continue to use his goodwill with the AES member states and push to get them back in ECOWAS. I think in 2 to 3 years, the AES will be back under the ECOWAS free trade agreements that we have, including our common external tariff system.
All right, Basil Abia joining us there from Abuja in Nigeria.